Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is for you. Hello, my name is Franklyn. I have no idea who's on, who's not. I just see a thing that says I'm live. So, hi. Hopefully, there's somebody else here and I'm not talking to myself. I do that a lot. Hey guys, so I'm Franklyn. I'm here with the Minds Journal, collaborating with them on their Expert Mind Talk series. These guys rock. Shout out to the Minds Journal. Yay! All right, so let's just get started because I have no idea. Unlike a Zoom call, which I'm really used to, I can see people and I can at least see names of people who are on here, but I have no idea. So let's just pretend in my mind that there are millions of people listening. All right. Hello. Hey, Teresa. That's my legal name, by the way. So nice name. If anybody else is here, just give me a shout out. Love to see you guys' faces on Facebook. Hi, Vanshika. I hope I said that correctly. India. Oh, wow. It's late over there, I think, isn't it? Probably 10 p.m. ish. It is, I'm in California, so it is 5 a.m. for me, but I live in East Coast time. My body is just East Coast time, so it feels like it's 8 a.m. for me. Not a big deal to be up this early. It's good for my East Coast clients and coaches because they get to have some early time with me, but not so good for my West Coast clients. All right, guys. So let's just get started. We're going to be here as long as everybody's hanging out, and I'm going to answer some questions afterwards. I just want to give you a little bit of backstory about who I am. I'm Franklyn for those who don't know me, and hi, Sam. And so I'm an empath and a highly sensitive person. I just want to talk a little bit about what that means for those of you who may not know but may be curious. I only recently discovered the term empath as it applies to me personally, just a few years ago. And highly sensitive person, I discovered that first. When I first discovered I was highly sensitive person, I read Dr. Elaine Aron's book about highly sensitive people. She is the doctor who coined the term highly sensitive person and did all this research and brain scans and fMRI studies about what it means to be a sensitive person. And she discovered that it's an actual innate trait that kind of like introversion and extroversion, like it's a neurological trait that's inherent in us. And it really described me to a T because I grew up thinking that I was an alien. Like, I felt so different from everybody else. And this world, as a little kid, like I could see the world was just upside down. Like people didn't care. I would see a dog on the street, a stray dog that was skinny and the ribs are poking out. And I would just start crying as a little kid. And everybody was like, oh, whatever, somebody will take care of it. Or, dogs are just supposed to be wild or whatever. And I just couldn't sleep for days because I would think about that poor dog. Or I couldn't see those commercials where in my day and age, I think it was Sally Struthers who would do those commercials with all the starving children and the big old, extended bellies. And I would just cry and cry. And I was so super sensitive to other people's suffering mainly. And everyone else would just be able to shrug it off. They'd be like, oh, that sucks. And then they'd turn around and be okay. And this world just felt upside down. And everybody told me I needed to toughen up. And so I just thought something was wrong with me. Like maybe I am too sensitive, maybe I'm taking in too much, and that there's something wrong with me. And I felt like the only person in the whole world who thought this way and felt this way because everybody else, like me, started to pretend that we were tough and it didn't bother us and, all that good stuff. So eventually I heard of the term highly sensitive person. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's me. I'm not an alien from outer space anymore. I'm actually a real human being with a neurological trait. Like it affects my brain differently than other people. And so I understood that this was just who I was and that there were also millions of others like me. And so that satisfied my identity crisis. It validated who I was for a while, but it also didn't explain the spiritual side of me because I always felt like, I felt like I could hear trees. If I hugged a tree, I could feel its energy. I could, around nature, I was just really involved in nature and I can just feel everything so powerfully inside me. And the highly sensitive person just didn't explain that. So when I heard the term empath, I was like, hey, that's me. They both describe me, one from a scientific level and one from a spiritual level, because I would have these insights about things and about people that were really intuitive hits and couldn't really be explained in a scientific way. And so both of those terms um, describe me. And I don't want to be put into a box to say I'm only an empath and highly sensitive person, nor should you or anybody else, but it does help you to understand who you are and and at least help you know that you're not alone, that there are other people like that who can sense energies that can't be explained. And you can kind of look people in the eye and you can sort of tell if they're lying to you, even though everybody else believes them, or you can look at somebody and they're smiling and they're like, "Oh, my life is so happy." And you can feel deep down that there's something inside them that's really not happy. And we empaths and highly sensitive people have that intuition. We can sense people's energy. We can sense not what they're showing, not the front that they're showing, not on their face, and they're smiley. We can sense that sadness or the sorrow or the grief or whatever it is that they may be going through. We can sense that more deeper than somebody who's not an empath and not highly sensitive. All right, so that's my little brief introduction about sensitives and highly sensitive people and empaths. And let's just go to questions because, hey, why the heck not? You don't want to hear me talk all the time. All right, let's see if we have any questions from you guys. Thank you for joining. I'm trying to see if I can scroll down. Seriously, no questions. Nobody has any questions about empaths or highly sensitive people. You don't have any questions about what you may be going through life as an empath or highly sensitive person. I know it feels like a big struggle. Most of the people who come to me are I have 4 stages of what I call the empathic awakening journey. Most people who come to me, who find me on my website and through my talks, are usually in the first 2 stages. And the 4 stages are identifier, survivor, observer, and alchemist. And it starts as an identifier and a survivor, really a lot of struggling in your life. You feel like your sensitivity is a curse. You have a lot of people telling you you need to toughen up, suck it up, get over it. You take things too personally. You have a lot of people telling you a lot of things. And as an identifier, you sort of go through life feeling that life is throwing things at you and you just can't take the hits. Like you feel like you're drowning with no life vest. That's how an identifier feels typically in life. Like you're just suffocating, you're drowning, you don't have a life vest, you can't even swim. The waves are thrashing you about. Life just keeps throwing things at you. People keep throwing things at you. That's an identifier. That's the first stage. The second stage is the survivor, one who has learned how to bat off all the things that life is throwing at you. As a survivor, oh, I'm going to get to questions. Hold on one second. As a survivor, you feel like you're swimming now with a life vest, right? You have a life vest, but you're still struggling. The waves are still thrashing at you, and life is still throwing crap at you. But at least you have a life vest, and you're sort of like surviving in the water. You're not drowning like an identifier. That's the survivor. Those are the first 2 stages, and that's how people typically find me, in one of these 2 stages. And then you move on to the third stage of your empathic awakening, which is an observer. And an observer has been through the identifier mode and the survivor mode, and they are in the water, but they float when the water is calm and they swim when the water is choppy. So you're no longer drowning, you're no longer suffocating, you're no longer struggling to survive life, the waves are no longer thrashing at you constantly. You're an observer, you're sort of witnessing everything with sort of a calm sense of peace. You're still surviving certain things, you're still struggling with certain things, but that's the third stage, that's the survivor. And then the alchemist is the one who has sort of transcended all of that and has gone through all of that, not just born like that, but has gone through all of those stages and has found peace and just sort of become one with the ocean. They're no longer struggling, they're no longer swimming, they're no longer floating, they're just simply one with the ocean, and the divine lives as them in their life. And so not everything's just wonderful, but when they face problems, they deal with the problems from a larger, broader, transcendent level. Okay, now question. Sorry about that. I got kind of sidetracked. Somebody asked something about why do empaths feel attacked? Okay, Kurt, hello. What is the difference between empath and a highly sensitive person? Okay, so first of all, there's two things. For those who are scientific minded, a highly sensitive person is a term coined by a real doctor, Dr. Elaine Aron, who has done decades of research and discovered this innate trait that can be physically tracked in your brain. So she's done a lot of fMRI studies on brains and how the brain reacts and how a non-highly sensitive person's brain reacts. So a highly sensitive person is basically someone who has high sensory processing sensitivity, right? Their sensitivity for processing things is very high. They can, it's almost like the volume in the world has been turned up, and it's almost like, when you have too many people talking to you, it's just sort of like, enough. Whereas some people can handle 30 people talking to them, and some people can't even handle 3 people talking to them. It's just too much. They take in the world almost with their volume level way high and their emotional level way open. That's a highly sensitive person. That is a scientific term that's been coined and has a lot of studies, fact-based science. An empath, on the other hand, doesn't mean it's not real, even though it hasn't been scientifically proven or researched, right? An empath is still real, but they're not the same exact thing. If you call it, people interchange highly sensitive and empath all the time, but it's sort of like taking science fiction and science and blending them together. And it's also taking somebody's research who is gone to school and done all this research. It's also taking their research and sort of washing it away with are not necessarily science-based. So I use the term interchangeably, but they're really not interchangeable. In empath, if you ever watched the Star Trek series, or even nowadays they're doing in the Marvel series, they have the empath, right? It's in a lot of science fiction movies. An empath is a person who typically, in a general sense, feels, senses, and absorbs other people's energy, right? Their emotions. So you may, as an empath, absorb someone else's sadness. You're walking down the street, someone sad walks by, and you just suddenly become sad and you have no idea why. It's probably because somebody else walked by and you just sucked in their energy and now you feel sad, right? A highly sensitive person has the ability to do that as well. And there are highly sensitive empaths, and there are highly sensitive non-empaths. But a highly sensitive person also has the ability to do that as well. They're just slightly a little different, if that makes any sense. Okay, anything else? Other questions? Why do people seem to attack empaths? Thank you, Dana. I actually saw this question earlier and I was rambling on. Why do people tend to attack empaths? Okay, so if you're in the first 2 stages of the identifier or survivor, it will feel like people are attacking you. And because you're sort of your heart is so open, right? You're a beacon of vulnerability. And there are people who do prey on that. It's not necessarily because you're an empath, it's because as an empath, your heart is very open, you're very loving, and it's very difficult to walk around vulnerable and open in this world, as we all know. It's really difficult, right? But that's who you are inherently. So as you walk around in this world with an open heart, you're going to meet people who are going to want to take advantage of that. It's not necessarily because you're specifically an empath. They may not even know what that word means. It just means you have an open heart and you're so loving and you want to help people and you see the good in others. And sometimes people can take advantage of that. You can learn how to love others and still have your boundaries and still be strong and firm in who you are without being taken advantage of. People may still attack you, but as an empath who is standing strong in her or his own power, that attack is just going to like bounce right off of you. It's not going to sink in. As an empath, we really, in relationships, we want to help our significant others. And a lot of times that can turn around on us, especially with narcissists, that can turn around on us and we can get taken advantage of. It's just a matter of learning how to stand strong in your own power and your own energy and not letting other people's energy in, if that makes any sense. I hope that answered your question, Dana. Okay, anything else? Hi, Kelly. How do you handle the heightened senses so it's not so overwhelming? What are you meant to do with the energy? Okay, so here's what most of us do, and this is what hurts most of us. This is what we're taught to do, so it's not our fault that we do this. In this society, right, we're taught to suppress our feelings. Even though people say you shouldn't suppress your feelings, if you were at a grocery store and you suddenly felt overwhelming sadness and you wanted to cry, or you suddenly felt overwhelming anger and you wanted to, your friends, your family, your parents, whoever is with you would tell you to, whoa, tone it down, kid, right? They would tell you to, whoa, stop. So in a sense, they're teaching you to suppress your emotion and not express it outwardly because it's not polite. You don't want to make people uncomfortable. So we're taught not to fully allow those, what people call negative feelings, not to fully allow those to be expressed, especially in public, right? People may be okay with it when you're in the privacy of your own home with your parent or your partner or your best friend, and you may be allowed to express it. But again, through all the conditioning in our society, we become ashamed of that, right? Even if we're expressing really negative, jealous, bad, whatever we want to call it, dark feelings, we are ashamed of it even in our own selves. We've taught to be ashamed of our feelings. And so those feelings, as we do not express them, that energy just keeps getting layered and layered and layered inside us. And eventually it's like a volcano. It's going to have to erupt. So I want you to think of emotions as energy in motion. Your emotions is nothing more than energy in motion. You don't have to label it. You don't have to call it bad. You don't have to feel bad for feeling those darker emotions. Just consider it energy in motion. And energy needs to be in motion. And so when you're experiencing something really difficult, really deep sadness, really deep anger, really deep whatever it may be, really overwhelming emotion, while it may not be safe out in public to start having a tantrum as a 40-year-old person, you want to be able to take yourself to a safe place inside the privacy of your own home, into a bathroom if you're out in public or something. This is just so that you can express that, right? And it could be shaking your body, jumping up and down in the bathroom stall and shaking your body and letting that energy out, right? Letting it out. As you let it out, you will feel better. You will feel not so controlled by it and not so overwhelmed by it. So I have on my website, treefranklyn.com, you can go there and this is free. It's a free, I call it the 4-step energy shift, to shift from painful emotion to powerful emotion. And it teaches you how to take an emotion such as, let's say, heavy, dense anger. It teaches you how, in the moment when you're feeling this angry energy, it teaches you how to take that angry energy and allow it to flow through. And within seconds, you can shift that heavy anger or sadness or whatever it is that you may be feeling. You can shift that overwhelming emotion to a place of real power. This is where you can get a taste of the real power that's in you and I don't like to use the word control, but the control that you have over these emotions that are flowing in you. We don't want to hold them down. And it's not to say, when I say to express your emotion, there's not suppress or express. People think there's only two options when you're feeling an emotion. You can either suppress it, keep it in yourself, don't express it, or you can express it, right? People think there are only two ways. There's another way. It's called transmute. So you express, suppress, and or transmute. And the transmute way is the best way for an alchemist. What I mean by that is, if you do my 4-step energy shift, it's free on my website. You can it's a video and I talk you through how to do it. Once you get the hang of it, you can do it in a second or two. It teaches you how to transmute an emotion that you're feeling in a healthy, positive way and turn it out into, bring it back out into the universe in a light way, if that makes sense. So that is the answer to the question. Very long answer, sorry, to the question, what do you do with all these overwhelming emotions? Okay, what else we got? Did I answer? There was a 2-part series to that. Don't know if I answered it or not, but if not, feel free to ask again. Are highly sensitive persons naturally intelligent? So there's a thought process, and I like it, but I don't like to say it too much because it sounds kind of self-serving or self-righteous, or like I'm putting us up on a pedestal, right? A highly sensitive person is attuned to their surroundings, attuned to other people, have a intuition about them. And so a lot of people think that a highly sensitive person is the evolved version of a non-highly sensitive person. And I know that people can look at that as, wow, they're so stuck up. They think they're evolved and we're de-evolved. But it's not really like that at all. If you think about, being in the caveman days, where you had to go get your own food and survive in a tribe, in a community, that was your survival. If the community outed you, then you're done, because the whole community, the whole tribe catches the food and they all cook it together. And, they have the hunters and they have the gatherers, and they sort of work as a community, as a team. You're welcome, Lavi. They work together as a community, as a team. And so when you're in this kind of survival mode, which we still are now, by the way, we just don't have to be we still have to be in society, but not in that same way. There aren't the people who go out and knock the animals on the head and bring them back, and then the people who cook the animals. But we are still a societally connected world. And so as a highly sensitive person, if you think about in the caveman days, if you were a highly sensitive person and you were in tune to the community and the people around you, and you were in tune to nature and perhaps an animal coming to attack because your senses are heightened, just think of how you could be a benefit to that community, to that tribe, right? You could help them save themselves, not get eaten by that attacking animal that's coming towards you. And so a lot of people think because of that, we are evolved. But I don't really want to say it that way, but in a sense, it does help us to survive. It helps us to be more aware of our surroundings and more aware of people who may be lying to us. And so in terms of intelligence, you may look at it that way, that we are a bit more aware, right? Not necessarily more intelligent. I'm not sure if you take, the IQ quiz, but there's emotional intelligence and there's also the mental intelligence. But I feel like we are emotionally intelligent in the sense that we are more aware emotionally. We can sense someone's emotions much more deeper than a person who may not be highly sensitive. We also pick up on very subtle clues, by the way. So if somebody's lying, we may just see like a slight movement in their eyes, or if we're not feeling something from them, right? We look behind their eyes and I know you guys have all experienced this. We just feel it. We just know. that they're lying, right? It's just something that we're more subtly aware to. Okay, any other questions? How can I stop being oversensitive? Oh, Kurt. I love this question. It makes me tear up, to be honest, Kurt, because I feel from where I stand that being oversensitive is a real rare gift. From where I stand as an alchemist on the 4 stages, right, at that level, being oversensitive is the gift you like. Why would you not want to be overly sensitive? This is the gift that we have for humanity and for ourselves. The problem is that until we learn how to stand in our own power, that oversensitivity is a pain in the hurts like hell, right? So I understand where this question is coming from. And when I was in my 20s, I went through, I call it the dark decade of the soul. I was so depressed because I was taking on the world's suffering. It was almost like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I didn't understand anything about being sensitive or empath or anything. I just felt suffering of the world, and I just felt such deep, deep, deep depression and sadness. And I wanted to not feel anymore. I wanted to not be sensitive, let alone oversensitive. I just didn't want to feel anymore. So I understand where this question is coming from. That oversensitivity is quite painful. It really is so painful. And you have the whole world telling you you need to toughen up. And especially if you're a male, right? Not necessarily, or if you're I know that we have all different sexes nowadays, but if you're more of a masculine energy and you have other masculine energy around you, especially the traditionally masculine energy that says men are not supposed to cry, that can really screw us up. I'm sorry to say, but it's so difficult to live in a world as a highly sensitive masculine person. So I understand where that question comes. I want to tell you, Kurt, that you can learn how to manage your sensitivity. You can learn how to stand firm in your own power. And you can learn how to ground yourself like a tree with roots into the earth and sort of absorb the energy of the earth and the strength of the earth. There are a lot of tree meditation exercises that I teach in my academy. You can like absorb that energy from the earth and take it on. And I guarantee you, if you do that, and when you learn how to do that, you would not be asking the question, how to get rid of your oversensitivity, how to not be oversensitive. You would be praising the universe for your sensitivity and the oversensitivity. It is truly a gift that is for you and for the use of others as well. It's your purpose. It's why you're an empath. It's why you're highly sensitive. It's a gift that is created for you to learn how to harness and learn how to give to the world and see the world in a much more compassionate way, because we know that there's not a lot of that going on. Okay, anything else? We've got a few more minutes. So let's see if we've got any other questions. Teresa, how do we get to alchemist? Okay, so that's a great question. It's a journey. It's an evolution. It's going through all 4 stages. I don't know which stage you identified with from here. You're welcome to put it if you'd like to from my description. I went through all 4 stages. So I have an academy. It's called the Empathic Awakening Academy, and you can go there, empathicawakeningacademy.com. You can also just go to my website, treefranklyn.com with a Y, FRANKLYN.com, and you can find the academy that way. It actually, it's just a bunch of on-demand courses, and it has all these courses are for empaths and highly sensitive souls. It teaches you how to move from one stage to another. It teaches you, if you have ever experienced, let's say you've worked on the law of attraction, right? And you've put up a vision board behind you on your wall, and you put affirmations on the mirror, and everyone else is manifesting all these wonderful things, and you are not. for some reason you are not manifesting. And then you start beating yourself up. Well, there must be something wrong with me, or I don't deserve this because I'm not manifesting it. The universe is not giving it to me, but they're giving it to my BFF or my partner, or all these people that are talking about all these wonderful things they're manifesting. Some things don't work for you. It could be because of where you are in your level, right? So if you're in a certain level and you're learning that the universe supports you and the universe is abundant, and yet you're living, let's say, from a financial perspective of having to support 5 kids by yourself because your partner left you, and it's hard to get a job, and or maybe you're working 3 jobs and you're still not able to make it. Like, the idea that the universe supports you really sounds just right. You hear people say it all the time. The universe supports you, and you're here struggling your A off, and you're not able to support yourself. And you're wondering, well, what, the universe forgot about me? What the heck? It's not because of that reason. It's not because the universe forgot about you. It's because you're at a certain level and you need to learn the tips and the techniques for that certain level. And the same is true for my Empathic Awakening Academy. I teach certain tips and techniques for you at your level, and it gets you to the alchemist level, and it gets you learning all these things. Because one of my classic examples is, if I ran across a person, if I was on a boat and there was somebody drowning in the boat or drowning in the water, right? And I look over and I see this poor soul drowning in the water, this poor girl, and she's like, trying to put her head up above water and breathe and gasp for air, and she's drowning. Would I say to her, hey, just envision yourself on dry land, everything is wonderful, the world supports you, the universe loves you, everything is great, just envision that, stop thinking negative thoughts, visualize yourself being able to swim, visualize yourself on the beach sitting on a bench, right? You don't do that to someone who's drowning. You throw a life vest into the water, you get her out of the water, and then you can start feeding her all these spiritual truths, which is all true, by the way. But at her level, she's not ready to hear that the universe is abundant and she needs to visualize dry land. She needs to get out of the freaking water. She needs to get out of there because she needs to survive. Right now is what you can teach her best is, let me give you a life vest so you can cling on to, so that you can get out of the water, so that we can move ourselves to that alchemist level, to that place where we know that the universe supports us. But until you're, close to there, when you try to feed people spiritual truths who are not quite ready to hear it, it can be pretty damaging, because this person who's drowning in the water, if she had a moment to stop and think that she might be the creator of her own reality, if she stops flailing for a moment, she's going to drown, right? And so we need to teach according to your level. And that's what I think generic, one size fits all advice and one size fits all techniques can be harmful. So in my Empathic Awakening Academy, I teach you how to get to alchemist based on where you are. That way you're not wasting time learning all these things that are not where you are, and that'll cause even more, self-doubt and shame and insecurity. I hope that helps. Any other questions? How to grow up as a highly sensitive people. Not sure what your question is. Are you asking, as a highly sensitive person, how do you manage the world growing up if you're younger? If that's the question, feel free to rephrase the question. I don't want to answer something that you're not asking. And we've got just a few minutes left, so I can keep going as long as you guys can keep going, but I'll just go until the questions stop. You're welcome, Ashley. You're welcome, Teresa. I hope that helped. If my answers aren't quite exactly helping, feel free to say that. I'm totally okay. Feel free to say, can you give me another explanation? When I was a child, growing up, just going back to that other question, when I was a child growing up as a highly sensitive person, is pretty difficult. especially if you're male, right? It's really, really difficult. You're told a lot of things, and society as a whole tells you a lot of things, and things may hurt you very deeply, and society tells you to brush it off. And part of that is people who do that, I feel, I see the good in everybody. So I feel that people, especially our parents, or our caretakers, whoever is raising us, who are teaching us, who are telling us that we need to toughen up, they're really, first of all, it's difficult for a caretaker, a parent, to see their child hurting and not being able to help, right? It's almost a very helpless feeling to see a child hurting and not being able to help your own child. So part of what they do to tell us to toughen up and to suck it up and to get over it and to not take things so personally is because of their own discomfort. Number one, it's very uncomfortable for them to see you hurting. And number two, because they're trying to prepare you for a very tough world. This world is very, very tough. And they want you to toughen up so that you can survive this world and not be so depressed and sad every single day of your life. And so the intentions behind that is pure. And so people who will tell you that, especially your parents, my dad told me that a lot, especially your parents, their intentions are pure. They're truly trying to help. They may not understand exactly what it means to be a highly sensitive person, and that we can't just turn it off. We drink alcohol, we try to numb ourselves with drugs, food, sex, alcohol, whatever it is, drug of choice, we try to numb ourselves. We try to close it off. But even when we do that, we don't feel who are authentically who we really are. And so it is very difficult to grow up in this world as a highly sensitive person. You just got to find your people. You got to take the courses. You got to, you know, um, have one person read, that you can trust and rely on and share things with. You can work through there's a 4-step energy shift again on my website. It's free. It's a video that I walk you through it. You can process through your emotions and get to a place of power so that it doesn't matter what the world tells you, and you can still be extremely sensitive and extremely strong at the same time. But I do understand, and I hear you, that it is difficult as a highly sensitive person growing up, especially in this world. Okay, anything else? We're going to close it down very soon. Sometimes it's really hard to be an empath, absorbing all the negative energies. It gets depressed at times. Is there any way to overcome that? Yeah, I hear you. Going back to my dark decade of the soul, people have dark nights of the soul. I had a dark decade of the soul where I was suicidally depressed, attempted several times. Um, as an empath, you just absorb everything. Back then, people didn't talk about highly sensitive people and empaths, right? There was no internet, so you can't Google, why am I depressed, or how to not be depressed as an empath. You just can't Google that. It's just not there. The internet didn't exist. Google didn't exist. So um, I would say, if you think of it this way, this is what has helped me the most. And I don't have a prop to help you, but this is what has helped me the most. If you think of okay, let's just use this. If you think of this cup, this mug, right inside, I've got coffee, but if you think of this mug, if you are an empath and you're absorbing everyone's emotions, it's going through, let's just say this is your vessel of energy, right? Which, by the way, is your body. So let's just say you're absorbing everyone's emotions. It's all coming in here, and it's going to overflow at some point, and you're going to feel really bad. You're going to feel overwhelming emotions, right? Because it's not flowing. It's got a bottom, and you don't know what to do with it. Maybe you numb it down and you push it down with alcohol or with drugs. And so it just keeps collecting and collecting and collecting in there. So that's one way. And that's the way that most of us manage our emotions. It's not really managing at all. It's just sort of trying to deny it, right? We push it down. We're ashamed of it. So we just suppress it, or we might explode and express it in a very unhealthy way, which is also not good. Although it is better than holding it in, I have to say, unless you're exploding onto someone. You don't want to emotionally vomit on someone just because you need to express yourself. There are healthier ways, right? So, Abhishek, think of it this way. All of your emotions are going into this mug. Now, this is, if you envision that your body is a vessel and your body is an energetic vessel, right? That flows emotion through it. Emotion, again, is energy and motion. So let's say that you cut out the bottom of this cup and the emotion will flow there and it'll come out, right? It'll go through, it'll come out. It'll go through, it'll come out. Every time you feel emotional energy, it goes through and it comes out. It goes through and it comes out. That's your flow. That's your energy in motion, right? You want to let it in and let it out. And how to do that? When we judge our emotion and we think it's bad, that we're feeling bad thoughts or bad feelings about someone else, for example, because we're loving creatures, we feel guilty about that. We feel bad. We feel maybe we're a bad person after all, right? So we judge that emotion. We suppress it. We deny it. We push it away because it's too painful to feel, because we're not taught that we can survive these emotions that we're feeling. When you push things away, if you criticize it, if you suppress it, even if you express it in a non-healthy way, it'll still come back because you're still holding on to a piece of it. All of those ways are ways to block that energetic flow. So what you need to do is release the bottom, let it flow through you as the vessel, as an energy vessel, let it flow through you and allow that feeling. So if you're feeling sadness, just allow it to flow. Know that you are not your sadness. You are not your depression. The sadness and the depression does not hold anything over you unless you let it. You are stronger than your depression. You're stronger than your sadness. So if you think of depression as just a ball of energy and it needs to flow through you, allow it to flow. We are taught to not feel bad feelings. We're taught just be happy, smile, turn that frown upside down, right? We're taught that we're not supposed to be depressed. And if we're depressed, there's something wrong with us. That's what society teaches us. But it's okay. It's okay to be depressed. If you were to tell someone I'm depressed, they would say, well, why? What's wrong? How can I help? Take this drug. What can I do? What happened? Right? Society makes you feel like there's something wrong with it because they're trying to fix it, trying to give you a drug to make it go away. They're trying to cheer you up so that you don't feel depressed. But if you were to just take that depression in and you're having a depressed moment, right? And you just take it in and you say, okay, I'm depressed, and that's okay. Not happy about it. It really sucks and it really hurts like hell, but this is where I am right now. And I'm just going to sit here and close my eyes and I'm going to allow this depression to flow through me because it's just energy. It's not who I am. It's just energy that I happen to be feeling through, even if you feel it deeply in your soul. It's just energy that you're feeling deeply in your soul right now. So you let it flow through and you cry and you wail and you hit the pillow and you do whatever you do as you feel the depression flow through you. But you know that you are still you. You don't identify with the depression. You just see that it's energy that's just needing to flow, and that's it. So you don't say things like, I'm depressed. You say things like, I'm feeling depression flow through me, or I'm feeling depression stuck in my chest. I'm feeling heaviness, right? You separate your identity from the depression. That's the first step. That'll help you at least flow through it. And I know you're going to have to do this, if you're living in a very depressed state right now, you may have to do this 20, 30, 40, 50 times a day. Every single time you feel that big, strong energy of depression come through, allow it through. Don't act on it. You don't have to act on it. Depression brings very awful thoughts sometimes. You don't have to believe those thoughts. You don't have to act on those thoughts. All you have to do is envision yourself. Thank you. Envision yourself as a vessel that is here to flow energy through it. Period. That's it. You're not depressed. You're not a depressed person. Depression does not hold anything over you other than you are allowing it to flow through. So look at it that way. And I know it's difficult. And in your moments of depression, you may think back on this talk and go, that lady's crazy. But I urge you to try it, even despite the thoughts that you may be having while you're depressed, even though you might think that's the stupidest thing in the world. I urge you to try and allowing that. Again, you can also download my free video, which helps you to shift from that painful emotion to a more powerful emotion. And you may have to do it 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 times a day, but eventually it will flow through and all of that will be out and you will be a pure, loving light vessel. All right. Anything else? I'm looking at the time. Okay. Joyce, hi. I know you. Love you, Joyce. Okay. How do you feel this can overlap, intersect with PTSD? A lot of us can, well, so my dad, my grandfather, they were all in the war. I'm a war baby, actually. I'm a product of the Vietnam War. My dad, American, went to fight in the Vietnam War, met my mom, had four babies, and I'm one of them, right? So I'm a product of the war. My dad came back to the US with severe PTSD, severe. Back in the 70s, it wasn't really a thing that people talked about, and he was too proud and macho to talk to anybody about how he was feeling. So he struggled a lot with PTSD. Fortunately, nowadays in 2020s, we are more comfortable talking about PTSD and the trauma that we've experienced. And you may not necessarily have needed to actually go be in a war like Vietnam, but I will tell you, life is like a war. Whether you were in a real war where the government was battling and the people were battling like Vietnam and killing people in front of your face, whether you were in a real war or not, I think growing up as a highly sensitive person can be somewhat like being in a war because you're almost always at war with the world. And the world is almost always at war with you. And things just don't make sense, right? Things are just upside down. They put so much importance on other things that you see as material and like that's not real and raw and people are fake and pretend and for you and everybody seems okay with it except you, right? So you feel like what the heck is going on? I'm like thrown into this weird planet where it's just upside down and inside out and everything that you feel you're told that that's wrong. In a way, that's like living in a war, right? It's not physical shooting and bullets and guns and all that stuff, but it's an emotional and a spiritual war. And so I get that a lot of highly sensitive people and a lot of empaths have PTSD and don't really have a specific incident that may have happened to them and they can't explain it, but they are living on sort of PTSD mode where their senses are heightened, right? And so, let's say you did experience something, molestation or whatever. I don't know. What I'm just making it up. Let's say you did experience something horrendous and traumatic in the past, and as a highly sensitive person, it affected you a lot more than it would have affected a non-highly sensitive person or an empath. Let's say you experienced a traumatic event and you're going through life and I'm just going to give you an example. Let's just say it's a male who traumatized you, right? When you meet other males who have that same energy or may say the same things that this original male may have said to you, and I'm not beating up on men, sorry, I'm just giving an example, could be female, but as you move through life and you have not healed this one traumatic event, you have not flowed that energy through you and you've not healed it, and it's still stuck in your field. As you move through life and somebody may seem like that original person. Somebody may seem like that. Your senses, it's almost like spidey senses. You know how Spider-Man has those spidey senses and he knows trouble's around the corner? It's almost like that. Your senses are heightened and you're on alert, and then you get goosebumps. And it's almost as if you're experiencing this original sin, this original event all over again. That's PTSD. And it's almost as if it's actually happening, even though this person who may have traumatized you is gone. They may be dead, they may have moved on, whatever the case may be. You are experiencing in real life as if it's happening now because your whole body remembers. Just like they say we have muscle memory when we work out at the gym and then we don't work out for a year and then we go back, your muscles remember. It's the same thing. We have spiritual traumatic memory, and it stays with us until we learn how to flow it, until we learn how to heal it. And so, yes, a lot of us do suffer from PTSD, and people who may tell you, well, what did you experience? There was no war, or there was no whatever traumatic event that may have happened to you. Life is traumatic. Life can be really traumatic for an empath and a highly sensitive person. You've got a lot going on there and a lot of people telling you a lot of things that aren't true to you. And you end up turning against yourself because as a little kid, that's what you do. You think everybody else is right. And so you end up turning against yourself. And that's pretty traumatic in and of itself, to turn against yourself and think that everything you are and everything that you do is wrong. That's pretty traumatic. So there's the correlation for you. Hope that helps. Okay, I keep saying we have a few minutes left, but I'm just going to keep going. And then, because I just love being here with you guys. Okay, I always feel so exhausted, especially when I have to go out into the world. What are people seeing when they are staring at me? I always notice that. I always feel so. Let me read it again. Oh, never mind, it's gone. Oh, there you go. Thanks. I always feel so exhausted, especially when I have to go out into the world. What are people seeing when they are staring at me? I always notice that. Yeah, first of all, that's a very self-conscious thing to do, is to wonder what people are seeing, and it's okay if that's where you are. It's okay to feel self-conscious. I would take that. Here's how to work that, right? I would take that self-consciousness. What are people seeing, right? And I would put it out and ask yourself, what am I seeing out in the world? What are you seeing when you're out with people? Introversion and extroversion is not specific to being empath or a highly sensitive person. There are a ton of extroverted empaths and extroverted, highly sensitive people. I happen to be an introvert, so I understand that idea of being exhausted in front of a lot of people, especially for a long period of time. I totally get that. Even where I am now, I do get exhausted. Where I am now in my stage and my level, I still get exhausted if I'm out and there's too many people and I'm out for an extended period of time, which is why I like, if I'm going to go, well, now we can't, but if I'm going to go to a party, I always set a deadline. I always say, yeah, I'll show up for an hour, but then I got to go. So I limit my time. But instead of, that's an introvert thing, right? You're exhausted, one, because you may be absorbing other people's energy, right? You're just absorbing, it's just frenetic. If there's 20 different people out, and you could even be in a grocery store and not in a social, party or a setting, gathering. You could even be in a grocery store and you're absorbing everyone's emotions. You're an energy absorber. That is exhausting. That's pretty exhausting. I get that. If you're an introvert, you're not an empath, right? You may not be absorbing other people's emotions, but you do get drained around other people, and you need your solo time to recharge your battery, to recharge and refresh and come back to life so that you can go out there again. But to answer your question, I wouldn't ask, what do people see of me? I would ask, what do I see of them? So you shift it from a self absorbed point of view, because as you start thinking, what are people seeing here, right? You're going to start really messing with your mind, honey, because you're going to start thinking, even if they're not seeing things, you're going to start thinking they may be seeing a real shy person, or they may be seeing somebody who's like not engaged, or they may be seeing this. Your mind's just going to make up stuff. So instead of asking, what are they seeing? Don't worry about that. Ask, what am I seeing? And you look out, right? Because from that point of view, your energy is going out rather than from the point of view of what are they seeing. Just, intuitively, you can feel that, right? You can feel now their energy is coming in and you're taking in their energy, rather than what am I seeing? Now it's going out. Now you're standing a little firmer in who you are. No judgment, no criticism, no thoughts that may or may not be from the other people. Doesn't matter what they're seeing. People see things from their own perspective based on their own life and their own experiences. So if they're seeing something in you, it's because of something they've experienced. It's because of the perception that they are coming from, right? Because you do the same thing to people. We all do. We see people from our point of view, which based on all of our experiences and what we're going through and what we've learned, this is how we look out into the world. So to answer your question, again, just don't ask that question. What are people seeing? It doesn't matter. That's their business, what they're seeing. Just start asking, what am I seeing? And if you are exhausted around people, again, learn how to not absorb, if that's what you're doing, absorbing other people's energy. Learn how not to be an emotional sponge. That's pretty exhausting. It's hard. It's exhausting just for one person to feel their own energy, let alone feeling and absorbing other people's energy. And then limit your time out. If you're an introvert, and just limit your time out if that's possible. Take breaks. If you're at work all day and you work with people for 8 hours a day and you're just sort of stuck there, take very many mini breaks. Go to the bathroom, shut the door, just be in your moment. Just take a bunch of mini breaks if you have to be out with a lot of people all the time for a long period of time. Anything else? Thanks, Tree. I also feel I have been flowing. Oh, yes, others' PTSD as well. Yes, Joyce, that is absolutely possible as an empath. Absolutely possible. One thing to remember is that because we're such loving souls as empaths, we try to help other people. We really do. And even people who treat us really badly, we try to give them the benefit of the doubt. And we try to say, oh, they're acting like this because they're not connected to the divine and they don't know who they are. And they had all this traumatic experience in the past. And it's created them to be this mean person or whatever. But I see deeper underneath that there's a loving soul underneath them and I want to help them. And so we tend to take on this abuse, if you call it, or this, we tend to accept and allow them to treat us this way, or we tend to, take on what you were saying, their own PTSD, because we do absorb their emotions as well. We tend to take it on. And one thing I do want to say about that is that you are not responsible for other people's lessons. You are not responsible for other people's healing. You are not responsible, even as an empath, you are not responsible for them to get better. You are not responsible, even if you are their partner and you have dedicated your life to growing together. That is not your responsibility. It's their responsibility. It's someone else's responsibility to learn how to move through their PTSD or move through whatever they're moving through. It is not your responsibility. And you do them a disservice by trying to take that away from them. When you are trying, I'm not saying you're doing this, Joyce, so I'm not attacking you. I'm not saying you're doing this, but we, as a collective empathic whole who want everybody to be so happy and loving and healed, we tend to want to take on other people's problems to ease theirs, right? To help them grow. And it's a very loving thing to do, but on the other hand, it's not our responsibility. And we also deny them the lessons that they can learn by going through it themselves fully, and as painfully as that may be. And I know it's difficult to watch, but we are denying them those powerful lessons by trying to take that away from them. So I hope that helps in a sense of, if you're absorbing other people's PTSD and you're trying to fix or help, I would say just let them fix or help. There's really nothing to fix when you think about it. Everything is in good, perfect order, even though it may hurt like hell and even though it may not seem like it. Everything is in perfect order for the best of our learning and our growth. And we chose to be here. We chose to have these experiences, regardless of whether we agree with that now or not. We did choose to have these experiences for our own soul growth. Okay. And when you do find yourself absorbing someone else's PTSD or someone else's anger or someone else's whatever it is, maybe triggering your own PTSD, when you do find that you're doing that, ground yourself in your own energy and know that even though you may have the potential to be an emotional sponge, you don't have to absorb anything you don't want to absorb. If you want to absorb it and transmute it, once you get to that place where you can do that and you have that strength, that inner strength and power within you, you can take that in, absorb their pain, transmute it, and bring it back out as light into the universe. And whether they accept it or not and latch onto it or not, that's their responsibility. That's their business. It's none of your business. If you want to take in pain and emotional, overwhelming energy and learn and transmute it and bring it out into the light and bring it out back into the universe, that's wonderful. That, I believe, is our true purpose as empaths. It takes a while to get there and to learn how to do that and to maintain the strength in your own energy first before you start trying to transmute other people's energy. Know that when you throw it out there, it's up to them to take it or not. It's up to them to accept that light and accept it and, take it in and learn from it. And they may not. Sometimes people want to be stuck in their pain. Okay, anything else? I know we're going over and we probably have to go, but one more question. Gabriella, hi. How do I ground myself in my energy? Please give an example. Okay, I will give you an example. Okay, so first of all, let me say my website, treefranklyn.com, TreeFranklyn.com. There's a free video. You just have to click on it and get access to it. There's a free video that will teach you how to ground your own energy, right? How to not with overwhelming energy as you feel it, like we talked about earlier, depression, sadness, anger, what to do with all these painful, overwhelming emotions and transform it and shift it in seconds. Literally, it takes seconds. How to do that on my video. There's a website. It'll talk you through on my website. There's a video that talks you and it shows you my 4 steps. It's really, really simple. And some of you will experience huge, profound shifts in that moment. Some of you may watch it and go, I don't know. I have no idea. But next time you feel powerful energy, go ahead and try it, right? Try it and experience it for yourself. It works best when you're feeling some kind of emotion flowing through you, not when you're at a normal, typical, whatever, calm phase. When you're actually triggered or you're feeling something a little more powerful, a little more painful, this is the best time to do that. It's on my website and it's free, no charge. You don't have to pay for it. So just go there and get that. So let me give you a brief example. This is really, really easy. It's a visual. You can feel it. You can see it. But I'll give you an example. I call it a tree meditation. I'm debating on whether you're doing it now or not. So I don't think I will because I think we're out of time. But visualize. So I have this tree on my wall behind me. This is Stick Girl. For those of you who don't know, Stick Girl is my muse, and I use her. I draw her. I use her in my coaching. I use her in my classes because we work on such heavy, deep things, emotional, painful stuff that she sort of helps, she helps lighten the load a little bit. She helps it become more playful so that we can deal with this heavy stuff. So that's Stick Girl, by the way. Okay, so envision a tree. If you were to close your eyes, just envision a tree. And the tree has roots that go down into the ground, right? and it has branches that go up into the heavens, into the sky. And all you have to do, we all know what trees are, right? They go deep into the roots. The bigger the tree, the deeper the roots, right? The more widespread, the deeper into the earth it goes. As an empath, we are very attuned to nature, usually. We're attuned to the earth, we're attuned to trees, birds, animals, etc. So this is a very good exercise for us. You can envision a tree. If you're standing like I'm standing right now, envision your feet planted on the ground and that there are roots from your feet, just like a tree. My name, Tree, which is why that's my nickname is Tree, because of this powerful visualization. If you visualize your feet on the ground with roots going down into the earth, deep, deep down into the core of our big, massive, beautiful Mother Earth, and your branches reaching out into the sky, big and broad, taking up space, which is what a lot of us don't want to do in this world because we don't feel we're worthy, but taking up space, energetic space in your room, in your house, in the world, on the planet, wherever you may think, but your feet planted deeply into the ground with the roots, and then reaching up high into the sky so that you have the nutrients and the energy of the universe, whatever you may want to believe in, source, higher power, divine, universe, whatever it is to you. If you envision yourself walking around the world like this, walking into your job, walking into your home, walking into the grocery store, walking into a restaurant, wherever you may be, if you envision yourself as a tree planted, wherever you go, the roots are still planted deeply into the power and the strength of Mother Earth. This will help you when you have an energy attack, when you have somebody coming at you with their negativity, right? Remember to take up that energetic space of a powerful tree, using the energy of the earth, the energy of the sky, the energy of the universe to anchor you in. That's one visualization that you can use as you walk around. I call there's planting your feet, right? You want to feel your feet. That's the name of the exercise that I call it. It's called Feel Your Feet. So you want to feel your feet firmly on the ground. A lot of times we're just standing or we're walking. We don't really feel our feet on the ground. Right now, wherever you're sitting or wherever you're standing, I want you to feel your feet on the floor. Do you feel them? Do you feel the energy that you just put into your feet, right? You feel your feet now, right? I bet you 10 minutes ago you didn't feel it. Feel your feet. Feel your feet. Wiggle your toes. Feel your feet. Feel them planted flat on the ground, on the floor, wherever you stand. And then in your mind's eye, you visualize the roots growing through the ground into the earth. And that's where you have a little more strength. If you're feeling a little more strength and power right now, let me know. If you're feeling a little more strength and power right now, you can take that with you into the world and just practice that. It's a practice. It's not a one-time, you do it once and you're done and everything's hunky-dory after that. Just practice that. That's how you can stand firm in your own power. That's one way of just tapping into that power that's within you. Okay, I think we're done. We have gone over an hour. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you all spending your morning or your evening or your afternoon with me. It's been a pleasure talking to all of you and answering your questions. And again, thank you, the Minds Journal, for inviting me on this Expert Mind Talk. I truly appreciate you guys. You guys are doing great work in the world. If you guys want that exercise video, that free video exercise to shift your energy, just go to my website, treefranklyn.com. Download it, watch it. I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to email me and say, hey, I watched your talk on the Mind Journal and I just did the exercise and this is what happened for me. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, bye guys. Have a great day. Have a great night.